Hi, my name is Asebiomo, and I'm the author of It's My Pleasure, Decolonizing Sex Positivity. The book really explores the intersection of sex and power and identity. It's My Pleasure is all about rewriting the sex education that we may or may not have received growing up. What is sex positivity? That's a great question. My book starts to answer that by debunking some of the most popular myths we have about sex. And in debunking these myths, I also write about the political reasons why they exist. I was really inspired to write this book because of my own upbringing in an immigrant household where sex wasn't really spoken of. Later on in my life, there was a time when I was told that I wasn't sex positive because I wasn't having sex. And that's just one of the many myths that exist about what it means to be sex positive. The book really started as a letter to myself because as a Black woman who also wasn't having sex, I didn't really see myself or those who looked like me in the sex positive movement. And my writing has really just been a journey of unearthing what sex positivity really means and how that movement can be more accessible to everyone. In my book, each chapter tackles a number of myths about sex positivity. There's actually two myths that I love to debunk. One of those is that when parents or guardians talk about sex with young people, it encourages them to be sexually active. When in reality, this couldn't be further from the truth. The research actually shows the opposite. When parents and guardians create shame-free or sex-positive environments where sex isn't stigmatized, it actually reduces the likelihood of teenagers and kids to engage in risky behaviors. The other myth about sex positivity is that it's all about sexual intercourse or being pro-sex. This is absolutely not the case. Sex positivity is about so much more. It's about power, it's about racism, gender, celebrating all bodies and abilities. It's also about consent and boundaries and autonomy. My book acknowledges this and builds upon that. One of my favorite chapters is currently titled Breaking Down the Buzzwords. It's really meant to make accessible the language that's often used in social media and in academia to talk about sex. I take on words like capitalism, ableism, fat phobia, and anti-Blackness, and really work to make those connections to sex in an accessible and engaging way. The book includes stories and insights from sex-positive families, from pure sexual educators from Stanford University, Dr. Tracy Gilbert from the sex ed of Black folks. I also lean on academic literature and books like Adrienne Maree Brown's Pleasure Activism and Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vad Menon. And my personal favorite, The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. Over the course of the past year, I interviewed clinicians, sex educators, sex workers, sexuality and gender professors, and so many others whose work and lives are kind of at the intersection of sex and pleasure. My hope is for all my readers to better understand their relationship and their part in the sex positivity movement. You will like this book if you're looking to complicate the narrative that we often hear about sex and pleasure. And by complicate, I mean expand who's often centered in the sex positive movement, who tend to be straight, cisgendered, skinny, middle to upper class white people. My name is Asebiomo, and I'm the author of It's My Pleasure, Decolonizing Sex Positivity.